Hola a todos y bienvenidos. You're listening to the Voices of Hope podcast. Each episode, we have a special guest who has been part of our journey and the fundamental success of our school. These stories will inspire you, and we hope you'll learn a thing or two about our wonderful country of Guatemala along the way. Let's get started.
Hola everyone, and welcome to the 14th episode of Voices of Hope. My name's Jolene, I'm the Comms and Grants Manager at the EFTC UK office, and I work with our teams in Guatemala and the US to spread the word about our wonderful foundation and inspire people to visit us at the School of Hope. Today we're talking to our social media and communications intern Julia. Julia is a college junior from Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, where she's working towards a degree in journalism and political science. She spent her fall semester with us in Guatemala, working with our outreach office and also teaching dance classes to her students at the School of Hope.
Hi, Julia. We are so happy to have you share your story on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Can you first give us a little introduction to you and what led you to become an intern at EFTC?
Yeah, sure. So initially, first off, I'm a college junior in the States. I study at Northeastern University in Boston, and I'm doing journalism and political science. And one of Northeastern's biggest programs is this program called Co-op, where you go abroad or you can stay in the States and you work just no classes. You just do like an internship for anywhere from 4 to 6 months. And so when I started participating in the program, they started posting a bunch of jobs. And one of those jobs that came up on my feed was EFTC, and EFTC has had a long time partnership with my university. They've had like multiple interns across the years come to EFTC from my university. So I actually got in touch with a girl who had come in 2019 prior to me coming to Guatemala, which honestly helped convince me that like Guatemala was where I wanted to be for my co-op. As far as like the interview process, I interviewed with the current outreach coordinator at the time, and she talked me through what it looks like to do a homestay and what it looks like just a day-to-day at the School of Hope. And I really liked the idea of being able to work with kids still, because that's something that I'm really passionate about, but then also doing some professional development in my social media and journalism career, and then also practicing my Spanish. So all of those things really just came together, and it just sounded like the best fit for me at this time in my life, and I'm so happy I chose the EFTC.
I'm so glad to hear that. It really does sound like EFTC was the perfect fit for you then. So how did you prepare to leave the States for 4 months?
It was a process for sure. I honestly felt at first it was no different than leaving just for college for another semester, because you're, packing all the same clothes, but I packed a little less warm clothes and I got to pack some shorts for once, which is a very big change from Boston. I think based on my past experience with traveling abroad, I wanted to be prepared as far as like being able to up my Spanish a little bit more. And I also have like a lot of dietary restrictions. So one of my fears, I guess, coming into it was like being able to find food that I could eat in Guatemala. And I am so like pleasantly surprised by how much is available for people who are gluten-free or vegan and everything. But initially I had prepared by like finding a lot of food in the States that I could like pack along with me. I had like a lot of food in my suitcase, which is really funny looking back on it, because there was plenty of food here for me.
Well, always better to be over-prepared rather than under-prepared, I suppose. So could you tell us a bit more about what your job actually entailed at the school and kind of what your daily routine looked like at the School of Hope?
Yeah, of course. So my official title is social media and communications intern. So that can really span so many things just because communications is so broad. But I do social media posts typically like daily. And then I have written some blog posts updating, people who read our blog on everything that's going on at the school, and supporting our office in any ways that our communications director Roxana needs. So if she's like wanting help with a video to be edited, I'll pick that up. Or if she wants me to write a specific blog, I'll do that. And then I also just take daily photos of the kids. So I get to go around to the classrooms and also like to their PE sessions or catch them at lunchtime and just document their day-to-day lives. And I would say like every day is different. So my daily routine kind of varies, but I get here at 8 and I kind of check in with Roxana and I see what needs to be done for the day. And then I'll do some Instagram stories or I'll see what the post of the day is going to be. And then once I've, gotten through the day-to-day work, I'll work on my more long-term projects, which could be videos or it could be podcasts or blogs.
Right, that sounds like a pretty eventful day then, and like you really got a lot of variation during your time at the school as well. But would you say there was any happy moment in the office or with the kids that really stood out to you in particular?
Yeah, one of my favorite moments that happened like frequently was the kids coming into the office at the end of the day. So they would, finish up classes and they'd come running into the office and ask me for like a piece of paper to color on or to build a paper airplane. And I would just be able to sit there and watch them, create and do their projects. And it was kind of just a fun break in my day to, spend time with them, especially if I was like working really hard on a different project. It was kind of a nice break. And yeah, they're just so much fun to be around and I get to practice my Spanish with them. So that was really fun.
Yeah, they are all just super cute, aren't they?
Oh, cute.
So you did get to spend Independence Week, graduation week, and the final week of school all at the School of Hope. How would you describe those celebrations, and was there any that really stands out as a favorite to you?
Yeah, Independence Week was really fun because that was my second week here and there was so much happening. The biggest thing was the Antorcha, which is like a torch run they do in like the farm behind the school. And I got to join in on that and go take photos. And we were like running forever. Like I thought it was going to be more of a 5-minute thing. It was more like an hour-long thing. And we were just running and I was like, it was really fun. It was such a good way to like, get invited to be welcomed into the EFTC community. We had parades that whole week. I got to walk with the kids through Jocotenango, and that was my first time seeing all of Jocotenango, and that was really stunning. And yeah, that whole week was so much fun. Just my first big introduction to Guatemala. And then as far as graduation week, that was really sweet because like a lot of our donors had come in, a lot of, sponsors. And then we also had, all of the parents and grandparents of every student showed up for the graduations. It was so sweet. And everyone's just so proud of these students. And the students are so proud of themselves, for getting to graduation, especially after the pandemic. There was a lot of conversation during the graduation ceremony of how like proud everyone was for like, getting to this point. And so that was really sweet to see. And then yeah, the last week of school was crazy because it was the last time I was probably going to be seeing these kids while I'm here, and so that was really bittersweet, and it was really hard for them to understand what that meant, that like when they come back in January that I'm not going to be here, and so trying to explain that to them was really hard. But we ended up like having a piñata, like 2 piñatas, and you have these little like 6-year-olds that are going up and just like going crazy on the pinata. That was really cute. So that was probably my favorite moment. I played like soccer with the kids that day, and I just got to say goodbye to them, and it was really sweet.
Yeah, that sounds like a super memorable time. On another note, you also ended up teaching dance classes to the EFTC students while you were there. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was kind of my initial ask when I first arrived. Susan, who was our visitors and volunteers coordinator, she was asking me like if there was things outside of my job description that would interest me. And I had mentioned that I had previously worked with kids in dance in the States, and I had, volunteer assisted classes for dance, and that was something I would be interested in continuing at the school. So we waited until summer school or vacation school had come around, and I got to do 4 weeks of dance classes with the kids because it just ended up fitting right into their schedule at that time. And I got to see every single student in the vacation school at that time, and it was super special. I was spending my Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, and I got to like, see every kid and like build bonds with them. And yeah, it was really, really sweet.
I'm really glad you got to kind of incorporate that passion of yours into your time at EFTC as well then. I think for anyone who might be considering doing an internship at EFTC as well, it It would be really interesting to know what kind of differences you noticed between working abroad at EFTC and, doing sort of a regular study abroad experience.
I'm really glad that I chose to combine both my work abroad or my co-op and my abroad experience into one to do a work abroad. And I think the biggest difference I noticed between like my friends' experiences going just a traditional study abroad is like having time. You're not getting like homework, and like when the day ends at 4 o'clock here, like I get to go explore all of Guatemala, which is amazing. And I also feel like I've been able to build more bonds with like Guatemalans rather than being in like a school and with other American students. Like I have had to like push myself out of my comfort zone to go like talk in Spanish and like work with other people in Spanish, which is such an important skill to have to be in like an office culture. And I love the office culture here at EFTC. It makes it really easy to like, they're so patient with me and my Spanish skills. And then, yeah, I mean, in my homestay, there's 2 of us now, there were 3 of us, and a mix of Americans and Europeans. And so that was the only time that I was socializing with people in my native language. And then I would go out into the city and like meet new people. And so there was a lot more opportunities to converse with locals rather than being at like a school doing those study abroad. So I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, that does sound like a really great opportunity. So it sounds like it wasn't all just work then while you were in Guatemala. Is there any more you'd like to share about the kind of stuff you got up to outside of working at the school?
Yeah, we did so much. Like, so Katie, the other volunteer that we interviewed on the podcast a couple weeks ago, she was with me for 10 weeks of my 14 weeks here, and we got up to a lot while we were out in Guatemala. So our first weekend we went to Jocotenango, which I highly recommend. It's really close to Antigua, and it's like a little hobbit themed town. It's really cute. Then we went to El Paradon, the beach, which was my first black sand beach. That was really, really pretty. That happens to be where we did the end of the year staff party this year. And so that was really fun too. I got to go twice. And then we went to Lake Atitlan, which is so pretty. It's like just like all you see around you around the lake is volcanoes, and that was such a pretty landscape. And then probably my favorite spot we went to was Flores, which is Antikal, which are Flores is like a little island on the lake up in the north of Guatemala, and it's about an hour drive up to the Mayan ruins of Tikal, which was so pretty and like give you such a perspective because there's just these huge ruins like towering above you, and you feel so like small. It just reminds you that you're like just here on a huge planet and that there's so much history. That was incredible. So definitely recommend that.
That sounds absolutely gorgeous, honestly. Well, I'm sure what everyone's wondering by now is what's next for you, and what would you say you're taking with you from this experience in Guatemala?
Yeah, there's so much I can take with me from EFTC. I think I've learned so much from not only being in the office and working alongside our outreach team, but also from the kids. I've learned a lot from them and from everyone in Guatemala, my homestay mom too. My next step, I hope, is I'll be going back for another semester at my university, and then I'll be going on to another co-op, another internship in the fall of next year. I'm hoping that leads me into another like direction of communications or social media. And I really hope that I can continue practicing my Spanish, because I found a lot of jobs in the United States right now have a lot of benefits if you can speak 2 languages, and especially Spanish. So I hope to keep working in that realm. I've actually found a big passion for video editing from Roxana. Like, she's taught me so much with Premiere Pro and being able to use different softwares, stuff that I didn't know before. So I'll definitely be taking all those skills onwards with me. And then who knows what the world holds for me after graduation, because that'll be in 2025. So I haven't thought that far ahead, but I know that there'll be some really cool opportunities ahead.
Well, you still have plenty of time, I guess, to plan ahead. And I'm sure, this experience in Guatemala will have had a big impact on how you're looking at your future as well. Well, finally, it's time for a bit of a special segment, Julia. You have 15 seconds to share the best gem you know about Guatemala. Anything, either place, food, a tradition, whatever you can think of.
Yeah, I think my biggest gem here in Antigua would be Fernando's Cafe. It's about like a 2-minute walk from my homestay, and I go like every Sunday now. And now that I'm leaving, I had my last Sunday breakfast there. It was very, very sad. But they have great crepes. I highly recommend checking them out for their crepes. And then I get their like gluten-free crepe because they have a lot of really good gluten-free options. And their breakfasts are so good, and everyone there is so sweet. Like I know all their names now and they know my name. So like I've really gotten to know all of the workers there, and they're so nice. And they have the best chocolate. You have to check out their lavender chocolate that they sell in their little store there. So good. Highly recommend.
Before we wrap up this episode, we'd like to invite you to follow us on all of our socials at EFTC Foundation. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok every day to keep you updated on the latest School of Hope news.
Thank you again, Julia, for sharing your insight into what it's been like interning with EFTC and living in a foreign country.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be sharing all of my experiences, and I really hope to see more interns at EFTC in the future.
Yeah, I think we all do, really. So we'll see you all on our next episode, and stay tuned on our socials.
Thank you for listening to the Voices of Hope podcast. Follow us on our socials at EFTC Foundation and find us at eftcfoundation.org.